I never imagined I'd find myself in this situation. My name is Jake, and I've been married to my wife, Lisa, for 5 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. We were your typical couple, work, weekends spent binge-watching our favorite shows, and the occasional date night. But lately, something felt off, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Lisa was drifting away from me. At first, I chalked it up to the stress of her job. She had been working long hours, often coming home exhausted. The little things started to change. She no longer cuddled at night, which was something she always enjoyed. Instead, she would turn her back to me and face the wall, her phone always clutched tightly in her hand. I tried to brush it off. Maybe she just needed her space, right? But as weeks turned into months, the distance became more pronounced. It was the night of our anniversary when everything spiraled out of control. I had planned a nice dinner, hoping to reignite that spark we once had. I even got her favorite wine and cooked her favorite meal. When she walked in, I could tell something was off. She was distracted, glancing at her phone every few minutes, her eyes glazed over. I tried to engage her in conversation, but she barely responded. Instead, she made some excuse about having to handle work emails. The whole evening felt forced, and I was left feeling more alone than ever. The next day, curiosity got the best of me. I picked up her phone while she was in the shower, and I don't know what prompted me to do it, but I unlocked it. I know it was a breach of trust, but I felt desperate for answers. What I found shattered my world. Texts, explicit ones, between Lisa and someone named Mark. They were planning secret meetups, and the things they said to each other were so intimate, so personal. I felt sick to my stomach. My heart raced as I read their exchanges, and the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. My wife was cheating on me. When Lisa came out of the shower, I tried to act normal, but inside, I was a storm of emotions. I felt an overwhelming mix of anger and betrayal bubbling beneath the surface. It took everything in me to sit through. Dinner without exploding. Finally, after we finished eating, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking. She rolled her eyes, ready with her usual excuse. "Can't it wait, Jake? I'm tired." "No, it can't wait. I know about Mark." The look on her face was a mixture of shock and defensiveness. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her eyes narrowing. I pulled out my phone and showed her the texts. Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought she might actually own up to it. But instead, she launched into a series of lies, telling me I was misunderstanding everything, that it was all just innocent flirting and nothing more. "You're overreacting, Jake," she said, as if it were so easy to dismiss the evidence right in front of her, but I wasn't buying it. The betrayal cut deep, and I could feel my emotions shifting from anger to despair. How could she do this to me? I thought we had something real. As I stood there, I felt as if I were losing a part of myself. The woman I loved, the woman I had dedicated my life to, was lying to my face. I felt lost, drowning in a sea of confusion and hurt. I needed to take a step back and figure out what to do next. I decided to leave the house for a while, needing air and space to think. I drove aimlessly, my mind racing with memories of our time together, the laughter, the love, and now, the betrayal that overshadowed it all. I parked in a quiet spot and sat there, tears streaming down my face. My heart ached, but I knew I had to make a decision. Should I confront her again? Should I try to salvage our marriage? Or was it time to let go? I needed to collect my thoughts and figure out what my next steps would be. The emotional impact of this revelation left me feeling hollow and broken. The man I was just hours ago felt like a distant memory. I had to find a way to either confront the reality of our marriage or face the terrifying prospect of starting over. Little did I know, the journey ahead would be tumultuous, and the decisions I made would shape my future. In ways I could never have anticipated, the drive home felt like a blur. My mind was racing with thoughts of betrayal and loss, but I also found myself grappling with the reality of what had just happened. I had so many questions swirling around in my head. How long had this been going on? Who was Mark? Did she really think she could hide this from me forever? When I walked back into the house, the silence was deafening. It felt like a ghost of what once was. Lisa was in the living room, her eyes glued to her phone, just like I'd left her. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I was about to do. "Lisa," I said, my voice steady but low, "we need to talk again." She looked up, feigning innocence, and for a fleeting moment I wished she'd just admit it, but the anger bubbling inside me wouldn't let me play her game any longer. "You know what I found on your phone," I said, cutting to the chase. "You can't keep lying to me." Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt. "Jake, please, you're overreacting. It's not what you think," she stammered, her voice rising. "Mark is just a coworker. We were just joking around." "Joking around?" I shot back, incredulous. "Is that what you call it? Texting him about how much you miss him, planning to meet up under the guise of work?" The anger surged through me again, and I struggled to contain it. "He doesn't mean anything to me, I swear. You have to believe me," she exclaimed, her voice rising to a pitch I had never heard before. "Believe you?" I laughed bitterly. "You've been lying to me for who knows how long, and you expect me to just take your word for it. Is this the part where you beg for forgiveness and promise it'll never happen again? Because I'm not sure I can trust anything you say anymore." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off, feeling the weight of every moment we had shared crash down on me. "I thought we had something real, Lisa. I thought you were better than this. You've betrayed my trust in a way I never thought possible." Her expression shifted from shock to defensive anger. "I can't believe you're doing this. You're acting crazy." "Crazy? I'm not the one who's been sleeping around," I shouted, letting my frustration spill over. The conversation spiraled into a back and forth of accusations and denials. Lisa stuck to her narrative, desperately trying to convince me that she hadn't done anything wrong, that I was the one who was imagining things. But the evidence was right there, and I wasn't buying her lies any longer. After what felt like an eternity, I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed out, needing to clear my head. I drove to the park where I used to take her for picnics and strolls. It felt strange to be there alone, wrestling with a tidal wave of emotions. It hit me then. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I felt like a fool for believing in our relationship, for trusting her so completely. As I sat there on a bench, I contemplated my next move. The pain was excruciating, but I knew I needed to think clearly. Revenge? It was a tempting thought, but what good would it do? I didn't want to become the villain in this story. I needed to find a way to reclaim my strength and dignity. After several hours of brooding, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her again just yet. I needed to gather more information. I needed to know the full extent of this affair. It was time to play the detective, to uncover the truth behind Lisa's lies. With that resolution, I returned home, my heart heavy but my mind focused. I wanted to confront her with undeniable proof, not just hearsay. I wanted to catch her in her own web of deceit. The thought of revenge floated in the back of my mind, but I wasn't ready to act on it just yet. I needed clarity first. That night, I pretended to be the same husband she had taken for granted. I went through the motions of our daily life, made dinner, watched TV, and even laughed at her jokes. But the moment she fell asleep, I was wide awake, my mind racing with plans. I started to think about what I could do to gather evidence without arousing her suspicion. I needed to know who Mark was and how deep this went. I felt a surge of determination, fueled by hurt and betrayal. I had to get to the bottom of this for my own sanity. The next day, I decided to follow her. I didn't know what I would find, but I had to see for myself. I might have been heartbroken, but I was also resolute. My life was about to change, and I needed to be prepared for whatever I was about to uncover. The next morning, I woke up early, well before Lisa's alarm went off. I had barely slept the night before, tossing and turning with thoughts of her betrayal echoing in my mind. The plan I had conjured up was simple: follow her to work and see if she met up with Mark. I couldn't wait to gather evidence that would expose her lies once and for all. After a quick shower, I forced myself to eat a light breakfast, trying to keep my mind focused on the task ahead. I needed to remain calm and collected, even if my heart was racing. As I pulled into the driveway of our shared home, I noticed Lisa still asleep, her face peaceful. It felt surreal to think that the woman I loved was capable of such deceit. I waited for her to wake up, and once she did, I acted like everything was perfectly normal. I kissed her goodbye and left for work, but instead of heading to the office, I drove to a nearby cafe where I could park and keep an eye on her. When Lisa finally left the house, I followed her at a safe distance. She drove to the office, and as I parked a few blocks away, I watched her enter the building. My heart sank, knowing she was likely texting Mark right this moment, sharing her day with him while I was left in the dark. For hours, I sat in that cafe, pretending to sip my coffee while my mind raced. I watched as employees came and went, but I didn't see any sign of Mark. I thought about how oblivious everyone must have felt, going about their day while I was unraveling inside. Finally, just after noon, I saw Lisa leave the office. My heart raced as I followed her again, this time feeling like I was on a mission. She walked to a nearby park and I parked a distance away, scanning the area for any sign of Mark. It wasn't long before I spotted him, a tall guy with dark hair and a confident swagger, laughing as he approached Lisa. My blood boiled as I watched them greet each other, their body language friendly and relaxed. I felt the weight of betrayal heavy in my chest, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. They talked for a few minutes before walking deeper into the park. I could feel my grip tightening on the steering wheel, the anger boiling within me. I took a moment to breathe, realizing I needed to keep my cool. I pulled out my phone and began recording, capturing their interaction. I wanted proof, something concrete that would confirm what I already knew in my heart. As I watched them share laughter and smiles, I couldn't help but feel like I was witnessing a part of my life being destroyed right in front of me. After what felt like an eternity, they walked over to a secluded area beneath a large oak tree. I could see them leaning in close, their voices low, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. My heart raced as I realized they were getting far too comfortable with each other. I felt sick. Suddenly, they both leaned in closer, and before I could process what was happening, their lips met in a kiss. I felt a rush of anger and betrayal wash over me like ice water. I wanted to scream, to confront them both, but I knew I had to stay composed. I needed to gather more evidence, something that would unequivocally prove Lisa's infidelity. They continued their intimate exchange, completely unaware of my presence. I recorded every moment, hoping that this would be enough to tear down the walls of deceit Lisa had built around me. I felt like a voyeur, watching my life unfold with the woman I loved in a way I never thought possible. After a few minutes, they finally pulled apart. Lisa looked blissful, a smile on her face as she brushed a stray hair from her face. It was a stark contrast to the anger and pain I felt. I could hardly believe it. How could she betray me like this? As they walked away from the tree, my anger morphed into a cold determination. I needed to confront her, but I wanted to do it on my terms, armed with undeniable proof. I would show her the reality of her actions and the hurt she had caused. I drove home, my mind spinning with thoughts and feelings. I was tired of the lies, tired of feeling like I was losing myself in this mess. I was ready to confront Lisa, but I knew I had to do it strategically. I needed to catch her off guard, to make her see the consequences of her actions. That evening, I arrived home before her, the adrenaline still pumping through my veins. I set up my phone to record the confrontation, wanting to capture every moment for later reflection if necessary. I imagined her excuses already, and I was prepared to counter them with the evidence I had collected. When Lisa finally walked through the door, I felt a wave of emotions crash over me: sorrow, anger, and a strange sense of empowerment. She smiled at me, completely unaware of what I had witnessed. "Hey babe, how was your day?" she asked, her voice cheerful. "Can we talk?" I replied, my tone serious. Sure, what's up?" I gestured for her to sit down. And as she settled into the chair across from me, I could see the shift in her demeanor. She sensed something was wrong. "I know about Mark," I said simply, holding her gaze. Her expression changed, a flicker of fear evident in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" Before she could launch into another round of denials, I pressed play on my phone, the video rolling out the evidence of her infidelity in vivid detail. The look on her face was one I would never forget: shock, fear, and ultimately, realization. "This is you, isn't it?" I asked, my voice steady. "This is the truth." Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. It was time for the truth to be laid bare, and I was ready to confront the reality of our shattered relationship head-on. The room felt heavy with tension as the video played, showing Lisa in a way I never thought I'd witness, so carefree and affectionate with another man. The moment their lips met on that park bench, I felt the last vestiges of my love for her fade into something darker, betrayal. I watched her face as the reality of her own actions sunk in. "Jake, please," she finally managed to stammer after the video finished. "You have to understand." "Understand what?" I interrupted, my voice rising again. "That you've been lying to me this whole time, that you've been cheating on me with someone else while I trusted you completely. What is there to understand?" She looked desperate now, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. "It was just a mistake. It didn't mean anything, I swear. It was just fun, something different." "Fun?" The incredulity in my voice matched the fury coursing through me. "You think this is just fun? You think kissing him and meeting up in secret is something anyone would do for fun? This isn't just a mistake, Lisa. This is a choice you made repeatedly." Her defenses crumbled and she buried her face in her hands. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could keep it all separate. You're my husband. I love you. You love me. Is that supposed to make this okay?" I was shaking now, a mix of rage and sadness threatening to overwhelm me. "Love doesn't mean anything if you can't even respect me enough to be honest. I found you in the arms of another man. You've shattered my trust, Lisa, and I don't know how you expect me to forgive this." As I spoke, I felt the tears welling in my eyes. I had never imagined I would have to confront my wife over infidelity. The pain was unbearable, a gut-wrenching feeling that left me feeling hollow and exposed. I had given her everything, my heart, my trust, and she had tossed it aside without a second thought. "Please, Jake," she begged, her voice trembling. "I'll do anything. Let's go to counseling or something. I can make this right, I swear it." I couldn't help but scoff at her desperation. "You think a therapist can fix this? You think talking it out will magically erase what you've done? You might as well dissolve the marriage if that's your solution." "Don't say that. I didn't want it to go this far. It was just an affair. I love you." Her words felt like a feeble attempt to mitigate the consequences of her actions. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. "You keep saying you love me, but love isn't just words. Love is action, and your actions have betrayed me. You've shown me who you really are, and I don't recognize that person." For a moment, we sat in silence, the weight of the situation hanging thick in the air. I felt like I was watching a stranger unravel before me. The woman I thought I knew had vanished, replaced by a person who made choices that shattered everything we had built together. "I need time to think," I finally said, my voice quieter now. "I can't be here right now." "Jake, please don't go," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. But I couldn't stay. I grabbed my keys and walked out of the house, leaving Lisa behind. I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. The confrontation was over, but the battle was far from won. I drove aimlessly for a while, my mind racing. I was angry, heartbroken, and confused. How could she do this to me? How could I have been so blind? I parked at the edge of the same park where I had seen them together, the irony not lost on me. I stepped out of the car and took a deep breath, trying to ground myself amidst the storm of emotions. As I stood there, the memories flooded back. Our first date, her laughter, the way she would curl up beside me at night. It all felt like a cruel joke now. I had invested so much into our marriage, and in a matter of weeks it had come crashing down. I thought about what to do next. Part of me wanted revenge, something to make her feel the pain she'd caused me. But another part of me wanted to rise above it, to reclaim my dignity and move forward without her. I didn't want to become someone who wallowed in bitterness, but I also knew I couldn't ignore how deeply I had been hurt. Over the next few days, I kept my distance from Lisa. She tried calling and texting, but I needed space to organize my thoughts. Each message felt like another stab to my heart, her pleas for forgiveness echoing in my mind. I replayed our confrontation over and over, searching for answers in her words, but I found none. I reached out to a close friend, Mark, who had been supportive throughout my marriage. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me navigate this emotional minefield. When I met with him, I spilled everything, my discovery, the confrontation, and the aftermath. "Dude, I'm so sorry," he said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You deserve better than this. You need to think about what you really want. Do you want to try to make it work, or is it time to walk away?" I didn't have an answer. Part of me wanted to salvage our marriage, to find a way to forgive and rebuild. but another part of me screamed that I would never be able to trust her again. After several days of soul-searching, I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't remain stuck in this limbo of pain and confusion. It was time to face the truth. I had been betrayed, and I had to protect myself moving forward. The prospect of letting go was terrifying, but I realized that I had to prioritize my own emotional well-being. It was time to take control of my life again, regardless of how painful that process might be. After everything that had happened, I was ready to take the next step, whatever that may entail. I would confront Lisa one last time, and this time, it would be about laying everything bare and finally deciding our future. I spent the next few days preparing myself mentally for the final confrontation with Lisa. I was nervous but resolute. I had made my decision. There was no way I could stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I needed to tell her that I couldn't go on like this, that I deserved better, and so did she. It was time to face the reality of our broken relationship. When I finally returned home, the atmosphere felt heavy and charged. Lisa was in the living room, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. "Jake, I'm so glad you're back. Can we talk?" she asked, her voice laced with hope. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "We need to have a serious discussion," I replied, my tone firm. She nodded, her expression shifting from hopeful to wary. I led her to the dining table where we could sit face to face. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about everything that's happened," I began, trying to keep my emotions in check, "and I've come to a decision." Her eyes widened and I could see her heart racing. "What do you mean? Are we going to work on things?" "I'm willing to do whatever it takes, Jake. Please just give me a chance." "Lisa, I appreciate your willingness to fix things, but the truth is, I don't think we can come back from this," I said, my voice steady. "You've betrayed my trust in a way that I can't overlook. I've lost faith in our relationship, and I don't think I can ever see you the same way again." Her expression crumbled, and I could see the panic rising within her. "You're being too harsh. You can't just throw away our marriage over one mistake." "One mistake?" I echoed, incredulity washing over me again. "This wasn't just a mistake, Lisa. This was a series of choices you made. You chose to lie to me, to deceive me, and to betray our vows. You have to understand how deeply that hurts." "I'm sorry. I never meant for things to get this far," she cried, desperation creeping into her voice. "I love you, Jake. I do. I made a terrible mistake, but I want to make it right. We can go to counseling. We can work through this." I shook my head, feeling the weight of her words but knowing they were not enough to mend the fractures in our relationship. "I don't think counseling will fix what's broken. You don't understand how this has changed everything for me. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and you've shattered ours." Tears streamed down her face as she looked at me, her expression a mix of regret and fear. "Please don't do this. I can't lose you. I thought we were stronger than this." "I thought so too," I replied, my voice softening slightly. "But I can't stay in a situation where I feel this kind of pain. I've lost myself in this, and I can't let that continue. I need to focus on rebuilding my life, even if that means moving forward without you." The silence hung in the air like a thick fog, and for a moment I thought I could see the flicker of understanding dawn on her face. She had to know I was serious, that I wasn't going to back down this time. "I don't want to be without you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know how I would live with myself if I lost you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. It hurt to see her like this, but I knew I had to be strong. "You made your choice when you decided to betray our marriage. This isn't just about me, it's about you and your actions. You need to figure out what you want and who you are." "I can change," she insisted, her voice rising. "I will change. I'll do anything to fix this." I could see the desperation in her eyes, but I wouldn't let myself be swayed. "I don't think you understand the gravity of what you've done, Lisa. This isn't just about making promises, it's about facing the consequences. I can't keep living with the fear that you might betray me again." The tension in the room was palpable, and I could feel my own heart breaking as I spoke. "It hurts to say this, but I think it's time we separate. I need to take time to heal and figure out who I am without you." Her face fell, and I could see the hope draining from her expression. "You can't mean that. You can't walk away from everything we've built." "I have to," I replied, my voice steady. I need to protect myself and find a way to move forward. This isn't just a decision I'm making lightly. This is about reclaiming my life and my happiness. I've lost so much already." As the reality of my words sank in, Lisa's sobs filled the room. I felt a pang of sympathy, but I knew I had to stand firm. "I'll give you time to gather your things, but I think it's best if we don't stay in contact for a while. I need space to sort through everything." "Jake," she pleaded, her voice cracking, "please don't do this. Let's try one more time. I can prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve. Sometimes." "Love isn't enough," I replied, feeling the weight of finality in my words. "I need to put my well-being first." I turned to leave the room, knowing this was the last time I would walk out with the woman I had once loved. I felt an overwhelming mix of relief and sadness wash over me. It was an act of self-preservation, but it didn't make the pain any less real. As I packed a few essentials, I reflected on what had happened. I had made the right choice, one that would ultimately lead me to healing and rebuilding my life. It wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to reclaim my sense of self and move forward, even if that meant facing the unknown alone. I heard Lisa's muffled cries behind me as I stepped out of the house for the last time. I glanced back, torn between the love I once felt and the pain she had caused. But I knew this was necessary. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to take my first steps toward a new beginning. It was time to rewrite my story, stepping out of the house and closing. The door behind me felt surreal. I stood on the porch for a moment, taking in the familiar surroundings that had been filled with so many memories, both joyful and now painfully tainted. The weight of the decision I had made was heavy on my shoulders, but there was also a flicker of freedom stirring within me. I was finally breaking free from the toxic web of lies that had entangled my heart. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions as I navigated my new reality. I moved into a small apartment, one that felt foreign and empty at first. I stared at the bare walls, unsure of how to fill the void left by Lisa. I realized I had to fill that space with something meaningful, something that belonged to me, not to the couple we had been. I threw myself into my work, diving deep into projects that had long been neglected. I found solace in focusing on my career, and slowly I began to rediscover pieces of myself that had been overshadowed by the turmoil of our relationship. I started exercising regularly, cooking for myself, and even picked up old hobbies I had set aside. It felt liberating to make choices for my happiness instead of accommodating someone else. I also sought therapy. Speaking with a professional helped me unpack the emotional baggage I had been carrying. I wanted to understand how I had allowed myself to be deceived and how I could build stronger boundaries in my future relationships. It was a painful journey, but necessary for my healing. One evening, as I sat in my newly furnished living room, I received a text from Lisa. My heart raced as I opened it, unsure of what to expect. She wanted to meet and talk. Part of me was apprehensive. I had spent so long establishing boundaries, and I didn't want to open myself up to her again. But another part of me felt a sense of curiosity about how she had been coping. After some contemplation, I agreed to meet. We chose a small cafe where we had spent countless afternoons together, a place that now felt like a bittersweet memory. As I walked in, I felt a mix of nostalgia and anxiety. Lisa was already seated, fidgeting with her fingers. When our eyes met, I saw a glimpse of the woman I had once loved. But it was overshadowed by the reality of our past. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly, her voice laced with apprehension. I nodded, unsure of how to start. "What did you want to talk about?" She took a deep breath, her eyes welling with tears. "I've had a lot of time to think since you left. I realize now how deeply I hurt you and how selfish I was. I've been going to therapy too, and it's opened my eyes to my own issues. I was running away from reality, and in doing so, I hurt the one person I loved the most." I listened as she spoke, feeling a mix of sympathy and skepticism. "I appreciate your honesty, Lisa, but I need you to understand that trust cannot be rebuilt overnight. What happened between us is not something I can just forget." "I know that," she replied, her voice trembling. "I don't expect you to forgive me immediately." I just want you to know how sorry I am and that I'm working on myself. I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Forgiveness is a journey, I replied, choosing my words carefully. Right now, I'm still focused on healing myself. It's not about you. It's about me learning to trust again, whether it's with you or someone else in the future. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I felt a wave of compassion wash over me, but I also knew that opening that door again would be dangerous. We spent the rest of our meeting reminiscing about the good times, but I kept my guard up. I wasn't ready to dive back into old patterns. When we parted ways, I felt a strange sense of closure. While I still felt the sting of betrayal, I also knew that I had changed for the better. I had taken control of my life, and I was no longer the man who had been blindsided by infidelity. In the months that followed, I focused on personal growth. I traveled, explored new passions, and surrounded myself with supportive friends. I learned to embrace solitude and appreciate my own company. I even began dating again, slowly opening my heart while being mindful of the lessons I had learned. Reflecting on my experience, I understood that betrayal doesn't just break you, it teaches you resilience. It was painful to see the end of my marriage, but it also opened the door for new beginnings. I had learned the importance of self-worth, boundaries, and honesty, not just in relationships, but in every aspect of my life. As I moved forward, I carried the scars of my past, but also the strength that came from overcoming it. I hope that anyone facing a similar situation would find the courage to prioritize their own well-being and recognize that healing is a process. Life is unpredictable, filled with unexpected turns and challenges, but through it all, I realized that I could come out stronger on the other side. And as for Lisa, I had no idea what the future held for her, but I was finally free to chart my own course, and that was all that mattered.